Another team that's not a defendant in the lawsuit, but was mentioned as a team that he felt was having him in for an interview just to check a box and not really as an opportunity to be a candidate. We all know the Giants did send out a statement saying that he was a candidate there, a real candidate, all the way to the 11th hour before they chose Daboll, and thus refuting what he said in the lawsuit. The Denver Broncos were put out there as having given him a sham interview where 3 days before Vic Fangio was hired, he was there. He said John Elway and Joe Ellis, John Elway, the chief executive in charge of football operations at the time, and Joe Ellis, the team president, showed up disheveled, and he assumed it was after a late night of drinking. John Elway has responded.
Oh.
Here's his statement sent out moments ago. While I was not planning to respond publicly to the false and defamatory claims by Brian Flores, I could not be silent any longer with my character, integrity, and professionalism being attacked. I took Coach Flores very seriously as a candidate for a head coaching position in 2019 and enjoyed our 3.5-hour interview with him. Along with the rest of our group, I was prepared, ready, and fully engaged during the entire interview as Brian shared his experience and vision for our team. It's unfortunate and shocking to learn for the first time this week that Brian felt differently about our interview with him. For Brian to make an assumption about my appearance and state of mind early that morning was subjective, hurtful, and just plain wrong. If I appeared, quote-unquote, disheveled, as he claimed, it was because we had flown in during the middle of the night immediately following another interview in Denver and were going on a few hours' sleep to meet the only window provided to us. I interviewed Brian in good faith, giving him the same consideration and opportunity as every other candidate for a head coaching position in 2019, and this is something that clearly I imagine you will be able to corroborate with plane tickets and receipts and things of that nature.
I mean, better.
And so this is what he responded today with. And I guess, again, we could talk about windows of opportunities and things of that nature. The one thing I'm also taking away from this window of opportunities to interview Flores back in the day, I have no idea where he was and when that meeting took place. The one thing that leaps out to me as well is if you can call up, if you don't mind, Stephen Ross's response that was sent out late last night on this front. If you notice the language, see the language? You notice the language? Defamatory, false and defamatory. He calls it false and defamatory here, the language that in that statement, and the language that Elway said, false and defamatory. You know what that reeks of? Lawyers.
Yep.
That's what that reeks of. And that is my way of seeing, and again, I'm not a legal expert. I don't play one on TV, although sometimes I'm forced to. It seems like I am right here. It seems like that's a way of just saying, keep it up. There's a countersuit coming. And you better be able to back things up. Battle lines drawn. Battle lines have been drawn.
Why would Brian Flores make this up, though?
I don't think he did. Like I said, I think he just feels like this didn't. I know when I was in an interview, it just didn't feel right. Yeah, I've been in those before.
Absolutely.
I've been in tons of them before. I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. I don't think I got a shot at this job.
Right.
But I've never thought about that because it was the color of my skin.
Right.
So, and I cannot imagine what it must have felt like for him to look in his phone and see the greatest coach in the history of the game congratulating him on a job, and it was mistaken.
Yeah, that's crushing.
What
man.
a gut punch.
Yeah.
That's crushing.
That must have felt like for Brian Flores. I cannot, and it's not something that Belichick was well-intentioned to say, hey, congratulations.
Right, yeah.
And I don't think it's anything malicious on his part. It's just like, he even admitted he effed up.
He's like, yeah,
and I'm sorry. And then he's like, yeah, thanks, coach, because that's the only thing you could say. Like, what the hell's your problem? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Who'd you find that out from? Like, you can't just now pepper Bill Belichick. Like, this is he must have felt just helpless, hopeless, totally despondent. It would have gutted me. What do you say to your kids? You know what I mean? Like, what do you tell them?
I don't know.
Well, what you tell them is, Dad stood up. That's why I think he filed the lawsuit.
Right.
And I don't think he's making anything up at all. Like he's been told this, or he felt it, and he feels it in his bones and conviction. And that's why we got to find out the what is what. Like, what was that ever all about down in South Florida? And Elway could be like, you know what? I flew in the night before. I woke up. Here are the receipts. Yeah. This is the receipt, the email we got from his representation saying this is the only time we could interview him. We flew to get in there. But Flores thought to himself, this has got, and he might not have felt at the time, might have felt off at the time, and then he finds out it's Fangio's job. He'd be like, damn it. You put it all in a lawsuit. If you're going to sue, you're going to put it all in there. And you're going to put it all in there. And also you need to make sure that this thing gets the proper, attention of who you're suing, as well as the public opinion court, certainly if you're doing this. And I mean, think about it. This thing includes John Elway, Bill Belichick, and an unnamed guy on a boat who may or may not be somebody who's insanely famous at the quarterback position.
Yeah, right.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.